pretty high likelihood of possible exhaustion at recent highs or lows because of the congestion or the confusion of the market. Okay, so understanding these lines and levels within the context of the market environment is very important. That's really at the heart of everything I personally do as a trader. It's not enough to recognize lines and levels on a chart. Auto chartists has recognized this as well, because along with the pattern alerts come the quality indicators, one of which is that initial trend. In fact, the fact that auto chartists acknowledged the market environment as part of their alerts is one of the things that really impressed me and really caused me to become a subscriber early on, because really nobody out there was talking about the underlying trend or even considering that as part of the alert. In fact, it's still something that's not discussed to a great degree today, even though the concept of market trends or phases dates back to Charles Dow and nearly a century ago. It's a well-tested, well-examined aspect of the market that, in my opinion, just doesn't seem to get the respect that I think it needs. I think one of the, again, my opinion, but one of the fatal errors that a lot of traders make is they don't consider the underlying market environment as part of the process by which they select their strategy. I would never consider a pattern or a setup without first understanding the psychological environment under which it is developing, because that's going to give me a lot of clues as to whether, for example, support will be respected, or whether I should be expecting a breakout or breakdown, or a reversal, or continuation. Okay? So we talked about the initial trend. We've talked in detail about the triangle patterns. I'm going to tackle the questions in the text window, and then we'll come back to the patterns, and I'll discuss each one of these, the initial trend that they can be forming in, and also the potential entry scenarios you could consider. Now, when it comes to a triangle, by the way, what are the entry scenarios? Entry scenarios for a triangle are usually going to be breakout or breakdown. In other words, break higher through resistance or lower through support, and what we're expecting is an acceleration or momentum to carry prices away from the pattern. That's a momentum setup or a breakout or breakdown. And that's what we would get if the pattern begins as congestion, simmers down or reduces its volatility into consolidation, coils like a spring, and then finally, boom, breaks out in one direction or the other. One of my preferred ways of confirming the breakout or breakdown, by the way, is using an MACD histogram. Okay? By the way, in terms of some of the tools that I'm talking about and some of the strategies that I'm talking about, we have a number of articles and videos available in the trader community. So if you've never checked those out, I would definitely head on over to autochartist.com, click on the trader community link up here at the top in the green, and head on over to education and start taking a look at some of the videos and some of the articles that have been written, some of which have been written by me, and some of which have been written by other auto chartist contributors. Okay? But certainly here, these are a number of articles that I've written about non-trending and trending pattern types and historical pattern tendencies and a number of other topics. So please feel free to take a look at the list here under the Education tab, because a lot of your questions will also be answered there. All right, so let me tackle some of these questions on the text window here, and then we'll go on with the remainder of the presentation and talk a little bit about the other patterns and their initial trend readings and understanding when we want to consider non-trending versus trending patterns. Okay? All right, so yes, this presentation is being recorded. We recorded almost every one of the presentations. I believe last week there was a technical error that did not allow for the recording to be processed. Okay, but you can access the past presentations. You click on the About Us tab on the AutoChartist.com homepage. Head on over to Events here on the left-hand side of the page. And you'll see there is a link for recordings of past events. You'll see a number of the AutoChartist webinars listed here. So I think we started this in early April, and you can see we've got up till the beginning part of June. I believe we have 1 or 2 videos to upload, and then you can download the WMV file. And it is a WMV. It's a Windows Media Viewer file, which should play on anybody's computer. But I have actually some smaller videos. Actually, there's a number of videos that I'll be sending to the AutoChartist headquarters. So assume that maybe early next week there should be some new videos posted here. Okay? And again, in the meanwhile, please feel free to check out the education articles, and in that way you can kind of keep the discussion going, if you will. Plenty of updates, and every single day we have fresh commentary at the AutoChartist website as well. So certainly no lack of content here. All right, so check out this link probably sometime next week. Push this link through the text window. Okay. In terms of the completed versus emerging patterns and my discussion of triangles being self-limiting, by the way, wedges and pennants are also self-limiting as well, for that matter. But no, if you consider, and the question is, since triangles are self-limiting, should we use emerging versus completed? You know, the emerging versus completed discussion in terms of which column you're considering is more about whether you're proactively setting up a pattern that it's still developing, or whether you want some more trade management or post-entry management or a confirmation of the pattern's break. An emerging pattern is one that's still forming. And that's where I'd say 80% of my attention usually is, okay, on the emerging patterns list. The completed patterns list is about focusing on patterns that have broken, and at that point you also get the forecast area plotted on the chart, and that assists with your trade management. So if you're proactively setting up a pattern that you're considering entering, focus on the emerging. A lot of times if you wait for a pattern to become completed and the alert to show up, you may end up with a lot of slippage. So, you know, my recommendation is you can use that for the trade management, which is extremely effective, and focus on the emerging patterns for your setups, which is another reason I like the AutoChartist plugin for MT4 so much. Now, as far as where you get that, the individual broker that you are getting your AutoChartist through, you know, first of all, you got to find out if they're, you know, if they're offering MT4. If they are, they should have the plugin version supplied by AutoChartist that is capable of running on your version of MT4. Now, if you ever have any questions about these type of tech support issues, you can actually send an email to techsupport@autochartist.com. Again, techsupport@autochartist.com. But your individual broker, if you contact your customer service, they should be able to tell you where on their website you can download the MT4 plugin. Okay? All right. What are the differences between a symmetrical and asymmetrical triangle? Well, in terms of symmetrical versus asymmetrical, your symmetrical triangle is usually going to be a balanced looking pattern with the angles of the trend lines, the two trend lines, the up and down trend line, looking as if you could fold them in half and make a mirror image of themselves. So there's balance, there's symmetry, hence symmetrical. Descending and ascending triangles are asymmetrical. Okay? So the basic difference is typically it's going to be the angle of the trend line, or in the case of asymmetrical triangles that are actually descending or ascending patterns, you might actually even have a horizontal level as either the support or resistance. Okay? Another question here is, what are the criteria that AutoChartist uses to draw the trend lines on the chart? You know, it's the same criteria that we would be using if we were drawing them manually. You know, obviously, first and foremost, we need a touch point. Okay? So, obviously, once those touch points are made, AutoChartist, the system can then go by connecting the dots, so to speak. But there are issues, and there are also, I shouldn't say issues, there are criteria that are also measured. And that's where we get into the uniformity and clarity of each pattern. AutoChartist will look and measure how far apart those touch points are. You know, are they all jumbled up together, or are they evenly spaced throughout the life of the pattern? That's uniformity. Clarity is another measurement of price, and it kind of gives you an idea of how much noise